We are taking a time machine back 500 years to visit one of the most impressive medieval fortified towns, surrounded and protected by its original stone wall. These massive stone walls are part of the medieval fortification of the old town on the island of Rhodes. The walls were constructed in the 14th and 15th centuries by the Knights of St. John, who were crusaders defending themselves from attack by the Muslims of Turkey. You get a good idea of the extent of these old fortified walls through the Google Earth view. These huge walls go all the way around the old town, 4 kilometers in length. In the program, we'll be showing you 7 of the fortified gateways into the old city, which controlled access and kept the invaders out. It's like the entire old town became one big castle, protected by these immense stone walls. In many places, there are multiple parallel walls and moats that were protecting the old city from bombardment by gigantic stone cannonballs, many of which are still in place in this well-preserved historic site.
There you see one of the moats. There's several parallel moats in this old fortified city. They weren't flooded with water, but they were just as effective. They're dry moats surrounded by towering, massive, thick walls.
There are also a lot of old stone walls inside the city that were used for the houses, some of which date back 500 and 800 years and are still in use today. By the way, if you like cats, stick around for the end of the movie. We have a little cat special at the tail end. The old town has dozens of little lanes with cobblestone paving that are ideal for walking, lined with old buildings in various states of repair, and many of the lanes are so narrow they're primarily for pedestrians and motor scooters, the main way that locals get around. Cafe culture is very popular for the Greeks. In a tradition that can be shared by visitors as well, there are so many outdoor restaurants and sidewalk cafes. You'll have lots of opportunity to enjoy some excellent Greek food and drinks. In the distance, the twin fortified towers are part of the medieval wall. This marine gate was the main entrance to the city from the harbor. Rhodes is one of the largest of the Greek islands. It's in the Dodecanese group in the Aegean Sea, just 15 miles from Turkey. You can fly here, but many visitors arrive by ship, either on a cruise with a one-day stop or perhaps by ferry boat. If you are arriving by ship, be sure to get out on the deck so that you can view the beautiful scenes of the arrival in the port of Rhodes, with the old walls and the fortified palace up on the hill. You'll get a nice view of these giant old stone walls even before you get off the ship. Normally, a Greek cruise spends one full day in Rhodes, which gives you a great opportunity to really see the town. And the first thing you will come upon is the wall. Entering through St. Catherine's Gate, which is a very simple structure compared to the other gates that we are about to see. Along the way, we'll show you a few scenes of this pleasant neighborhood and the local lifestyle, but remember, our main focus here is going to be looking at the old fortified walls. The Acandia Gate was modified and widened by the government in the 1930s to provide access to the town by roadway. But it's worth walking into the gate because you will get a nice view looking down at the moat. It's a dry moat and walls on both sides. That leads you back into the old town where you have another chance to admire these old buildings. They are so colorful and wonderful to walk past. Heading to our next gate, you'll see little food markets and various shops in this out-of-the-way residential neighborhood that many visitors never get to see. It's an easy walk along these lanes to our next gate, just 400 meters away, the heavily fortified Gate of St. John. These entrances to the city were far more than just an opening in the wall. They were not a simple doorway, but in fact were a heavily fortified barbican with walls along both sides of the lane leading to the gate. It's a stone bridge over the dry moat that takes several turns along the way to make it even harder for the attackers to get in. Now it's so easy to enter, it's a major route for the motor scooters. A view looking down from Google Earth shows the route we're taking, passing over 2 moats and through a couple of stone wall gates. It's even more clear in the 3D version, showing the walls and the 2 moats. There was a great need for these powerful defenses because the Knights of St. John were being savagely attacked by the Turkish army. These battles went on and off for many years in the late 14th and early 15th centuries, part of a long history of violence and conquest going back to the early 1300s when the Knights of St. John first arrived on Rhodes after being forced out of the Middle East during the Crusades. They were the last crusaders to leave the Holy Land. The Knights controlled Rhodes for all of the 14th and 15th centuries, but by the early 1500s, the Turkish attacks were getting more severe as the Ottoman Empire expanded. It was conquering Budapest and Vienna at the same time. Rhodes was one of the last outposts in defense of Western Christian civilization. Many of the buildings encircled by the wall are from this medieval period and have been well preserved, making the Old Town one of the most important historic monuments in Europe. It's been recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, which describes it as a fortified city able to withstand sieges as terrible as led by the Sultan of Egypt in 1444 and Mehmet II in 1480. Rhodes finally fell in 1522 after a 6-month siege carried out by Suleiman II. UNESCO calls it one of the most beautiful urban ensembles of the Gothic period. Because of its high state of historic preservation, Rhodes still maintains the authentic architectural character and organization of a medieval city. Looking for the next gate, we got some helpful directions from a friendly local lady.
We Omiro.
Almiro. Okay. And this is the gate, the gateway. Yep.
Now we're walking along one of the highest parts of the wall. You can see it just towers above me. This is the inside of the wall, and there's a pathway running right alongside it. This is a rare section of wall on the interior where you can get right up next to it and really get a feeling for the vast scale and size of the structure. No invader can get up there. It's the inner wall of 3 outside fortification walls. There's a dry moat between them. Nobody can climb this wall.
You will see this particular section is the most impressive of all the fortifications of the city. The entrance has that familiar pattern of multiple gates with a curved, twisted path with big walls along both sides in this fortified barbican for extreme defense. You'll get some dramatic views looking out through these fortified openings that were used to fire down upon the attackers, killing thousands of invading Turks. This length of the fortification was called the Walls of England because it was guarded by the English division of the Knights of St. John, called the Tongue of England.
And this part of the moat, there's a wall that stands right in the middle of the moat. So it adds one more layer of protection. If you can imagine, there would have been defenders right up on top of the wall, shooting down, shooting all around them.
The entire length of the English walls is strengthened by what's called a terrapline, which is the middle wall that was made in the year 1520. It's an embankment of earth protected by large stone walls with a broad level top platform, which is a rampart where guns are mounted so that the attackers would have to cross 2 moats to get into the town while being shot at from the top of this rampart. Now it's quite wonderful that this entire moat area is open to the public. There's no charge to come down here, and there are several access points, as we've been showing you, along the length of the wall where you can come in and walk along the moat for a while and then walk out at a different point.
And then you'll discover down at the base of the wall, there's more tunnels that lead you underneath the wall. Phenomenal structure. Remarkable, they had these series of tunnels so the knights could get back and forth to defend the castle. Little windows like this where the cannons would have been firing away, blasting away at the enemy. Well protected.
There's some big old stone cannonballs still stuck in the walls, perhaps for decoration.
After being in here for a little while, you begin to wonder, how am I going to get out of this place? It's like a maze, a trap of some kind. And it really was designed as a trap to fool the enemy with this very complex series of walls. But, well, that looks like the exit. So now we can get out of here after having walked about a half a mile through the moat. Pretty phenomenal.
Exiting the gate now, back into the old town. Walking along that same high wall, looking up at it from the inside is most impressive. We're taking a little stroll to another major gate. It's just 700 meters away and brings us through some more charming aspects of this old town. You can climb up that clock tower to get a view looking across the city. We do have other videos about Rhodes that will take you through more of these little pedestrian lanes and shopping areas and restaurants of the old town. But as you notice in this episode, we are focusing on the old medieval walls and fortified gates. We've now arrived at the most important building in Rhodes. It's the Palace of the Grand Master. This was the headquarters for the Knights of St. John, first constructed in the early 14th century. So you know that the gate through the wall leading to this palace had to be one of the strongest. Some of its walls are 12 feet thick.
So we're now on a gate that's called the Amboise Gate. The gate is a real strategic point in a wall. It's a potential weak spot, vulnerable spot. And so therefore they really fortified this gate. You can see up above there will be platforms for the bowmen to be shooting down at the invaders trying to get in. And a very complicated system of walls. 4 parallel walls defending the palace at this point. It makes all these right angle bends, so you have a lot of good perspectives for shooting from. The Turks, by the way, had an invading army that's estimated to be 100,000 people. And there was only about 2,000 defenders inside the city. And they held them off for 2 years. It was phenomenal defense. So here we have a sweeping view of the main moat. This is the outside moat, all running in parallel, slightly irregular angles, and it continues along in this direction behind me for about a mile. So the moat is open. Let's go give it a shot and take a walk in the moat. All right, through the open gateway, down the steps, and we're in the moat, right alongside the massive wall.
Not only is the moat an important historic site, a well-preserved monument from the medieval era, it's also a public park, free and open to people to come down and enjoy this vast open space. Maybe you'll get lucky like my group from Hawaii and come across a beautiful field of red poppies in the moat.
It's pretty awesome to be standing down here inside the moat and looking up at these walls, these huge curtain walls all around you. You can see how well defended this city was. Well, the work on the wall started even before the Knights. It's probably far back as the 9th century, 10th century. They had some walls here. But it was under the Knights that these massive fortifications really developed.
As we leave the moat and walk out through the Amboise Gate, we get another view of the curves and twists and high fortifications of this very guarded place. Not only was it functional in keeping the enemy out, it's an architectural marvel of great beauty. We are moving along now with a brief look at the last of our 7 gates of Rhodes. It's the Gate of St. Paul, back down at the waterfront near where we began. The wall is smaller because it's an outlier from town, and this area was protected by the warships. But why are there so many cats here? Oh, it's a fishing boat area. These are fishermen. People are fixing their net, and the cats know there will always be a little bit left over for them. You can see the Marine Gate off in the distance, which is where we began. We have come full circle in our walk around the walls of Rhodes, looking at all of the important gates. And here comes that little cat story you've all been waiting for. The Greeks loved their cats, especially in a town like Rhodes where there's not a lot of cars. Cats can roam free.
And they're all different colors.
We frequently upload new movies, so please subscribe to our channel and click that little alarm bell so you'll be notified. And if you enjoyed the movie, how about a thumbs up? And we always welcome comments down below. Or if you have questions about the destination, make note and we'll answer them. Thanks for watching.